and welcome to Nerdstead, the homestead that guarantees to do things differently. I'm John Maddox, and today we're going to be making hay feeders. It's been a cold, long morning already. My daughter decided to wake up at 4 o'clock this morning and jumping in her crib and having a good old time. So I got up at 4 o'clock to feed her and get her ready, and I got her to daycare now and got a few things to do today. First thing is I am taking a piece of equipment back to my dad's that I borrowed a little while ago. He asked about it last night, so I got some trailer stuff to do today, so I loaded it up on the trailer since I'm going by his house, so I'll get that dropped off. And then my second stop for the day is actually going to the steel house. There's a steel place that I go to that sells all of their cut pieces at $1.40 a pound. Well, today $1.40 a pound. So you kind of grab whatever you need, throw it on the scale, and you just pay a flat rate of whatever it weighs. So the reason why I'm going to the steel house though is to build some hay feeders. I have bought many hay feeders from various farm supply houses, TSC and Rural King, so on and so forth. And my goats always destroy them. So I end up spending a decent amount of money on buying them and then having to replace them every 2 to 3 months because the goats will bend the bars or break the bars or do something. So what I have learned to do is go and get tube stock from the steel place that I get it from, or metal place I get it from, and get rebar. I can get 20-foot sections of rebar for a little like $7, $8, and I could build quite a bit of a hay feeder off of one bar. So today I'm going to the steel mill place to pick up some tubes because a friend of ours who has goats is actually doing round bales, so I'm doing a new custom design for her. And then I got a couple orders in to build my standard wall hanging hay feeders. So I'll be getting all the material for all that and then going back and then showing you how I build them. Let's get started. I've never really built one of these before. I kind of just wing it when it comes to this stuff. I got a picture of what she kind of wanted that you could buy at a tubular, round tubular steel. And I'm essentially going to be building the same thing out of square tube and out of rebar. So first things first is I'm going to take the square tube, cut everything down to size, and then build my 4 panels. Because I'm essentially just going to build this in 4 panels and then connect the 4 panels together. So first thing is to actually cut and weld all of my tube into the 4 square panels. And then it'll be cutting the rebar down and actually sizing everything up and building the grids. The kicker is I got to build these for Nubian and Nigerian. It's really hard to get feeders that work well with both of those because the Nubian sits so high and the Nigerian sits so low. But I think I got a good idea in mind for that. So without further ado, let's get started and start cutting some metal here. Plasma cutter requires power and air. Number one rule with your air and a plasma cutter is make sure there's absolutely no water in it. So we drain the tank like once a week, once every other week depending on use. And then my dad's got a water separator. So today I just hit the water separator before I hooked it up and just got a little bit, there's a little bit of water in there, just got that separated. Then you have 2 leads just like a welder. You have your ground clamp and you got your torch. So what it does is the torch melts the metal and then the air blows it out of the way. I've actually built some standing hay feeders and this has been the legs for it, and I've had upwards of 15 to 20 goats leaning on it at a time, and it's done just fine. So there's a lot of this readily available at my steel house. So I've used it in the past. I like it. It works good. So everything essentially is going to be 5 feet long. So 5 by 5. So I'll measure out the first one. And I think the top I'm going to want to do is like a rail. So we're going to be 5 feet there. If I do that on top and bottom. So I lied, it's 1.5 inches by 2. So essentially, if I want this 5, we're going to be 1.5 inches, which is going to be 3. So 3 inches off of 5 feet. It's going to be 57. So 57 will be my verticals. Okay, we have our verticals and our horizontals for the 4 sides. I like to do all my cutting at once because with our power setup here, we can only run one piece of equipment at a time, welder versus plasma cutter. And it's kind of a pain to go back and forth and back and forth. But I have never built this before, 1, and 2, not really sure how this rebar is going to lay out yet. So I'm going to go ahead and flip over to the welder and just assemble what I've got so far, which will give me my 4 gates. And then I'll bring the rebar in here, cut some pieces to length, and start playing around with how I want it to lay out. Like I said, to get the Nubians to fit up top and the Nigerians to fit down below. And then keep all the babies out. So it should be fun figuring out all of that. But yeah, I'm going to flip over to the welder and we're going to just start assembling all this stuff. So I think the top and bottom rail, I'm going to lay flat. And I'm going to inset the verticals on edge against the top rail. Because I'm probably going to lay on my rebar on the back side. And that will kind of make this side as flush as possible once I lay my rebar on here. So I'm going to go ahead. I set everything on one set of rails just to get it off the plywood. The plywood's not exactly true. Not that this is insanely accurate as well, but it is better than just it laying on the plywood. The plywood's got some wobble. And once I laid it on here, I got it a lot straighter, something I'm more happy with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just run a bead across the back. That'll hold it in place, and once that bead's in place, I'll go ahead and remove my magnet and then kind of weld all the way around. And then I'll just do all 4 corners. Here we have it, hot off the presses. So what I did is I ended up going super tiny down here. I went super tiny down at the bottom for almost like a checkerboard. We're about 6 inches by 4 inches here. I don't see any baby goats getting through that. And there's actually 3 stages to this. So you have the bottom here, which is to keep baby goats out. And then you have a little bit bigger section here. This is for Nigerian dwarfs to reach their head and eat. And then you have the really big section up here for Nubians and her bigger goats to reach their head and eat. So I call this the Forever Hay Feeder. This is actually a new design. I've never done one like this before. This is copied and pasted 3 more times out there. I am missing some little side. I want to get some side tubing to put down the side here. So I could drop another piece of rebar and just connect all the corners together. So we have it in a square. So you drop a 5-foot round bale right in the center, and then the Nubians and the Nigerians can eat. But it'll keep the babies out because it's about to be kidding season, and she's got about 75 goats. I don't know how many babies are coming, but she has quite a few goats. So trying to keep the babies out of the hay is one of her main concerns, and that's the reason for coming up with this design. But this is a new style of what I call the Forever Hay Feeder. I do have the wall hanging ones, which is just made out of rebar. But just to show you here, this is 1/2-inch rebar that I use, and then this is just 1.5 by 2-inch 11 gauge tubing. So when you weld all this up, this is good and sturdy. Like, you're never going to run into an issue with this breaking, falling apart. And it's going to take at least 100 years for it to rust through. It's just thick, solid metal. So yeah. So once again, this is John Maddox with Nerdstead, the homestead that guarantees to do things differently. This is one of the things I do differently. I got tired of buying them and then breaking. These don't break. These are too strong to break. And I've had them for 2 years with no issues whatsoever yet. So again, please subscribe, hit that like button. That is the main metric that YouTube uses to really push my videos out. I'm really happy with, I got 14 subscribers. Thank you all right now for the 14. But yeah, if you find this interesting, I do make these. I'm in the Indianapolis area. I sell them on Facebook Marketplace. But I make them custom. I do corner ones. I do 5-foot, 3-foot, smaller, bigger. I mean, and if you just have a crazy design, I can draw something up in CAD and we can get it locked in, and then I can build it. So yeah. So once again, the Forever Hay Feeder, John Maddox, Nerdstead. Please hit that like button, and we will catch you next time. Thanks again.